What would you do if the only family you had was the column of men marching beside you? If your life depended not on your own courage, but on the steel of the shield locking with yours, forming an impenetrable human wall. Imagine it. Feel the weight of 30 kilos of iron on your shoulders under a relentless sun. A weight that fuses with your very bones until you forget what it was to walk without it. Listen, it is the hypnotic rhythm of 10,000 leather and nail sandals of the Caligay, striking the earth in perfect, terrifying synchrony. A single heartbeat for a 10,000-headed monster. Smell it. It is the sour human mix of sweat, raw leather, and the oil you use to polish your sword each night, a sacred ritual. It is the scent of discipline and fear. Feel the cold in your stomach. An icy knot that contrasts with the warmth of camaraderie from the man to your right. He is not your friend. He is your legionary brother, the only life that matters besides your own. This is not an epic fantasy. This is not a poet's invention. This was the daily reality, the exhausting and brutal routine for 20 long years of service, for the men who built the greatest empire the world has ever known with their bare hands. What you are about to witness is not the story of Caesars in their palaces or senators in their curias. It is the chronicle of the life, sweat, and blood of a Roman legionary. We are going to dismantle the war machine, piece by piece, to finally understand the man inside. Our story begins in a time of crisis, at the end of the 2nd century BC. Rome is a republic choking on its own success. Its borders expand. The wars are constant, distant, and cruel, but its army is broken. It was a militia of citizens, men who owned land and could afford their own equipment. An army of farmers, forced to leave their fields to fight for Rome, but always with one eye on the harvest calendar. How can you wage campaigns for years in the barbarian lands of Hispania, or the arid plains of Numidia with soldiers who need to return home for the planting season? The answer is simple: you cannot. The old model was no longer viable. Rome needed a new kind of soldier. And then, one man changed everything. His name was Gaius Marius, a homo novus, a new man who understood that Rome's future lay not with the landowners, but with the mass of poor, propertyless men who crowded the cities. The proletari, the Marian reforms were an earthquake. Marius opened the ranks of the army to any citizen, regardless of wealth. You no longer had to own property to fight for Rome. On the contrary, fighting for Rome would make you a property owner. The state now provided the full equipment, the armor, the shield, the sword. Military service ceased to be a civic duty and became a profession. A 25-year career that offered a steady wage, a bed, and a hot meal. A way out of misery. But this solution created a consequence that would shake the very foundations of the Republic. The soldier's loyalty no longer belonged to the abstract acronym of the Senate and people of Rome, the SPQR. His loyalty, his life, and his future now belonged to a single figure, his general. The man who led them in battle, who guaranteed their pay, and most importantly, who would fight to get them a plot of land upon retirement. This is the army we are entering, a professional, standardized, and brutally loyal force, devoted to its commander, the same force that conquered Gaul with Caesar, but also the same one that, out of loyalty to him, would not hesitate to cross the Rubicon and march on Rome itself. This is the birth of the war machine. For most, becoming a legionary was not an act of patriotism, it was an economic decision, often a desperate one. For a poor young man from the overcrowded suburbs of Rome, with no land and no future, the options were few and grim. The army was the best of them. Picture the recruitment scene. The stench of the great city, a mix of smoke, crowds, and open sewers. You hear the incessant hammering of a blacksmith, the shouts of merchants, and there, at a simple wooden table, sits the delectator, the recruitment officer. His gaze is cold, calculating. He examines you as if you were a horse. He checks your teeth, measures your height. You must be over 1.70 meters, and feels your muscles. You sense the tension in the air. You know that being accepted means signing your life away for 25 years, but being rejected means returning to hunger. If you meet the requirements, a Roman citizen, in good physical shape, the most solemn moment arrives. The oath, the sacramentum. With your hand on the standard, you swear to obey your commanders without question, to execute every order, and never to desert. The penalty for breaking this oath is death. In that instant, you cease to be a citizen with rights. You become the property of the army. Your will is no longer your own. Your body belongs to Rome. Think of the farewell. You are 18 or 20. You embrace your mother, your siblings, knowing that if luck is with you and you survive, you will not see them again until you are a man of 45, a stranger with weathered skin and an empty gaze. You leave behind your name, your identity, to become a number, another cog in the legion. The life you knew is over forever. Roman training was not designed to make you stronger. It was designed to break you, to demolish the individual, the farmer, the scared boy, and to rebuild a soldier from the ruins, a piece in a lethal, perfectly synchronized machine. The legionaries themselves said it. Actual combat was a relief compared to the brutality of daily training. Imagine a typical day. You wake before dawn to the guttural sound of the trumpet and the shouts of your centurion. The march begins. 30 kilometers in 5 hours, under the sun or in the rain, carrying all your gear on your back, armor, weapons, entrenching tools, stakes for the palisade, and grain rations. Over 30 kilos. No wonder they called you Marius's mules. After the march, weapons training. You don't use real swords, but the rudis, a wooden sword twice as heavy as the gladius. The goal is strength and endurance. You strike a wooden post again and again, learning not to slash meme but to thrust. A quick, deadly stab. And when you think you can't go on, when sweat blinds you and every muscle in your body screams in pain, you hear the order, dig. Every night, without exception, the Legion on the march builds a fortified camp, a castra, with a ditch, an earthen wall, and a palisade of stakes. It is exhausting work, but it is the most important lesson. Discipline and engineering are your greatest defense. The training was total, physical, with marches, running, and swimming in full armor. Technical, learning not only to fight but to build bridges, catapults, and siege towers. And above all, psychological. Discipline was absolute. The punishment for failure, savage. An entire unit could be punished with decimation, where 1 in every 10 men was stoned to death by his own comrades. Amid this brutality, you forged a new bond. Your real family was no longer in Rome. It was in your contubernium, the 8-man unit with whom you shared a tent, food, and fear. Your life depended on them, and theirs on you. And reigning over you all was one figure, the centurion. He was no aristocrat. He was a veteran soldier, promoted from the ranks for his courage, his experience, and his ferocity. He was your father and your executioner, the pillar upon which the entire legion stood. His authority was symbolized by the vites, a grapevine staff he always carried. He did not hesitate to use it to beat his orders into the back of any legionary who faltered. You feared him, you respected him, and in battle, you would follow him to the very gates of hell. Let us pause on the march. Let's look closely at the tools that turn you into a professional killer, an architect of empire. Your equipment is not a mere collection of objects. It is a weapons system, a marvel of Roman engineering. Observe the lorica segmentata. It is not a rigid breastplate. It is made of iron bands joined by leather straps. It offers formidable protection against cuts and arrows, yet at the same time gives you a flexibility that your barbarian enemies, with their chainmail, do not possess. It is modular armor, easy to repair and mass produce. Now, your shield, the scutum. It is not round and passive. It is a rectangular, curved piece of laminated wood, reinforced with metal. It weighs 10 kilos and is much more than a defense. Its shape envelops you, protecting you from neck to knees. In formation, it interlocks with your comrades on shields to create an impenetrable wall, and in combat, you use it as a weapon. A blow with the bronze boss, the umbo, can break an enemy's face and unbalance him, opening him up for the final strike. It is your personal, portable piece of wall. And then, the lethal pair, the pilum and the gladius. They are the yin and yang of Roman destruction. The pilum is a heavy javelin, designed with diabolical intelligence. You throw it from about 30 meters. Its hardened iron tip can pierce any shield. But its true genius lies in its long, thin shank of soft iron. Upon impact, this shank bends. This achieves 3 things at once. The enemy cannot easily pull it from his shield. The weight of the dangling pilum makes the shield unmanageable, and it is impossible for them to throw it back at you. With a single volley, you have stripped the enemy's front line of its main defense, and it is then, over the fallen shields and broken ranks, that you draw the Gladius Hispaniensis, the short Spanish sword. It is a broad, double-edged blade with a terrifyingly sharp point. It is not made for elegant duels or wide slashes. It is designed for one thing: killing up close, quickly and efficiently. In the heat of battle, protected by your scutum, you only need to extend your arm and deliver a short, precise thrust to the enemy's belly or chest. It is a brutal, personal, and definitive weapon, the tool that conquered the world. Most of your life as a legionary is not spent amidst the clash of steel and the cries of war. It is spent in a monotonous routine, in the silent vastness of the empire's frontiers. Whether in the damp cold of Hadrian's Wall in Britannia or under the scorching sun of the limes in Syria, your main enemy is not the barbarian. It is boredom. Imagine a castra, a permanent camp. It is a perfectly ordered military city with its right-angled streets, its hospital, its workshops, and its bathhouse. The air smells of latrines, field kitchens, the smoke of forges, and damp leather. You hear the constant sound of patrols, the echo of blacksmiths, hammers repairing equipment, and at night, the clatter of dice and muffled laughter from the canteen where you drown your boredom in sour wine. Your gaze is lost beyond the wall, on a monotonous and often hostile landscape, a constant reminder that you are far, far from home. Your days are governed by duty, guard shifts on the wall, reconnaissance patrols into enemy territory, and above all, work. A legionary is a builder. You erect forts, pave roads that will last 2,000 years, build aqueducts and bridges. You are the spearhead of Roman civilization, imposing order on wild lands with sweat and shovel. The diet is simple and repetitive, mainly wheat, which you grind yourself to make bread or porridge. A little cheese, some vegetables, and occasionally meat. Sour wine, posca, is mixed with water to make it drinkable. Social life is limited. Officially, you are forbidden to marry until the end of your service, a law that would not change until 197 AD. But reality is different. Many local women live in settlements next to the fort, forming unofficial families with the soldiers. Their children, upon growing up, will often follow in their father's footsteps and enlist in the legion. It is a paradoxical life. You are a man trained for the most extreme violence, a human predator, yet you are forced to live an existence of rigorous discipline and almost absolute boredom. How do you manage that psychological tension? The answer lies in the camaraderie of your contubernum, in small rebellions against authority, in games of chance, and in the constant hope of a new campaign. Because a campaign means movement, it means purpose, and above all, it means the possibility of plunder, the spoils that could make all this sacrifice worthwhile. Now, for a moment, let us leave the legionary's perspective. Let us cross the border. Let us be a member of a Germanic tribe, deep in a dark, ancient forest. One day, you hear a sound that does not belong to this world. It is not the sound of animals or the wind. It is a rhythm, a constant, dull, deep beat that seems to make the very earth vibrate. It is the sound of 10,000 sandals marching in unison. You peer through the trees and what you see freezes your blood. An endless column, like a serpent of steel, of men who move as one. Their helmets and armor gleam in the sun, their red shields a moving wall, and above them, waving against the sky, the golden eagle of the legion. In the evening, they camp in a clearing that has always been yours, but they do not sleep under the stars. In a matter of hours, with terrifying efficiency, they transform your land. They dig a ditch, raise a wall, erect towers. Where there was a meadow, there is now a fortress. They have not come to pass through. They have come to stay, to you and your people. The legionary is not a civilizing hero. He is an occupier. He is the face of a relentless force that fells your sacred groves to build its forts, that demands a tribute of grain and livestock you can barely afford. He is the enforcer of a strange and alien law, and the constant threat of brutal reprisal if you dare to defy him. The famous Pax Romana, the Roman peace, is not a peace of equals. For the conquered, it is the peace of subjugation. a tranquility bought with freedom and maintained by the fear of the sword that man on the frontier carries. He is the shadow of the eagle cast upon your world. And then, the day comes. The day you were forged for. The day of battle. It is the final test. The moment when every exhausting march, every blow from the centurion, every hour of training takes on a terrible and glorious meaning. The moments before are a mixture of tension and ritual. You listen to your general's speech, his words amplified by the acoustics of your helmets, promising you glory and spoils. You feel the handshake of your contubernium comrades, a last swig of water. You check your equipment for the 100th time. And then, the sound. The deep, guttural cry of the cornu, the great war horn. It is the signal. The first line advances. The ground trembles. You see the enemy horde rushing towards you, a chaos of screams, furs, and iron. But you are not chaos. You are order. "Pila!" shouts the centurion. 1,000 arms move in unison. The heavy javelins fly, darkening the sky for an instant before falling like a rain of steel upon the enemy. The sound of splintering wood and screams of pain tells you they have done their job. Then comes the impact. It is not a clash of swords. It is a thunder of bodies and shields. You push with all your might, your scutum locked with your comrades, turning you into a wall of muscle and wood that absorbs the fury of the first assault. The air grows thick with the smell of blood, sweat, and churned earth. The space is claustrophobic. There is no room for individual heroism. You raise your shield, thrust underneath, cover yourself, take one step forward, repeat. You trust that the man to your left and the man to your right are doing the exact same thing. You trust the system. The Legion is a machine of rotation. When your line is exhausted, it falls back through the ranks behind, and a line of fresh men takes your place, without the shield wall ever breaking. It is this discipline, this ability to maintain formation under unimaginable pressure, that wins battles. The fear is real, a metallic taste in your mouth, but the training has been stronger. The discipline is stronger. The presence of the centurion, on the front line, killing and shouting, is stronger. You fight not for Rome, not for Caesar. You fight for the man beside you, so as not to let him down. And then, as suddenly as it began, the chaos subsides. The enemy breaks, flees, the battlefield falls silent, a silence broken only by the moans of the wounded. The tension drains away, replaced by absolute exhaustion. You have survived. The grim task of tending to your comrades, counting the dead, and looting the enemy's bodies has begun. To survive 25 years of service. It is a feat most recruits will never achieve. It is a victory in itself. A private war won against enemy swords, disease, and the simple passage of time. The day of your honesta missio, your honorable discharge, arrives. It is a solemn ceremony. The general calls you by your name. He hands you your military diploma, a bronze tablet detailing your service and guaranteeing your rights as a veteran. And most importantly, you receive your final pay, the premium, a considerable sum of money, or more commonly, a plot of land in one of the veteran colonies, perhaps in the very land you helped to conquer. Imagine that feeling. After a life of obedience, of owning nothing, you now have something of your own, a piece of land in Gaul, in Dacia, or in North Africa, a place to build a home, to legally start a family, to finally be your own master. As a veteran, you are a respected figure in your community, a pillar of Roman order. But the return to civilian life is its own battlefield. How do you adapt to peace after a life defined by violence? The scars are not only on your body, they are in your mind, the ghosts of battles, the memory of fallen friends. You suffer from nightmares, from fits of rage, what we would today call post-traumatic stress disorder. You struggle to reintegrate into a society that cannot, that does not want to understand what you have seen and what you have done. You are a middle-aged man, your body worn down by decades of marches and wounds. The peace you so longed for sometimes feels strange, empty, and so the journey ends. The desperate young man who enlisted in Rome is now a landowner, a citizen with full rights, the head of a family. He helped build and defend an empire, but at what cost? Sometimes, at dusk, you look at your hands, hardened and calloused from working the fields. And in them, you see the reflection of the violence you committed, the price of the peace you now enjoy. The Legion has given you a future, but in return, it has kept a part of your soul forever. For one last moment, picture that veteran, not on the battlefield, but on his farm in Gaul. The sun is setting, and he looks at his calloused hands. In them, he sees the reflection of the shovel's handle, but also the ghost of the gladius. He hears the wind in the wheat fields, but also the echo of 10,000 marching sandals. He is a pillar of the Pax Romana, a respected citizen, but the war machine never truly left him. He lives in the peace he helped forge with unimaginable violence. The story of the Roman legionary is the eternal reminder that great empires and civilizations are not built on maps and speeches, but on the discipline, sacrifice, and organized brutality of common men. They were the anonymous cogs in the machine that changed the world, and their legacy is carved into every road, aqueduct, and ruin the empire left behind. After seeing the reality of his life, what aspect of a legionary's day-to-day existence has impacted you more? The brutality of his training or the tedium of his service on the frontier? Leave your opinion in the comments. If this journey through sweat and steel has moved you, subscribe. Here, we don't just tell history, we relive it.